Welcome to the Twisted Pint Tavern. When you're building a D&D character, there are many questions that you'll need to answer. What's their name, their race and class, and most importantly, how goofy do you want this fantasy representation of a psychosis to be? Just be aware, however, that the goofier a character is, somehow the more serious their stories end up being by the end of the campaign. Today, we're diving into r/D&D to check out the answers to what's the silliest character idea that you turn serious for a campaign? I've been playing a Harengon disgraced food critic. He is a paladin who swore an oath to fine taste. His name is Carrot Nibbles, pronounced Caro Nibble, and don't get it wrong, my apologies for getting it wrong. He was fired from his local newspaper because he was too critical. He now travels looking to write about delicious food, hoping that some other publication will pick up his column. I describe his appearance as seasoned with a salted pepper fur. He was a joke for a one-shot. I've now played him a dozen times, and boy is he fun. This is exactly the kind of answer I was hoping for. A fun little twist on something that ends up being a really long-running, enjoyable character. Forever DM reporting in, one of my players, who has gone on to write a book, Slay Girl Slay, wanted to try her hand at running a game. She gave us a key moment from our background, how we tied into the story she wanted to tell, but the rest was up to us. I was given Folk Hero. You led the defense of your town against an orc attack. Neat. I made a human barbarian with a hammer I painted flowers on called Sasha. I was supposed to be the backseat bruiser so the other players could soak up the spotlight, and I could subtly sit next to the DM and answer her questions while she ran her first game. By level 5, my joke of a TF2 ripoff had become the Herald of the Raven Queen, and my DM and I came up with a story on the fly where Sasha was my daughter's name, and the flowers I painted on the hammer were the flowers that had been planted on her grave. She died in the orc attack. Eventually, I ended up making a deal with the Great Raven Queen and traded a life of service for the life of my daughter. Yes, we got to run an epilogue where I got to play as the reincarnated daughter, learning about this happening in real time. Ever since that point, I always start from comedy and work toward making it serious. I absolutely love this story. The emotional hit of painting flowers on your warhammer because your daughter died during an orc invasion, that is just gold. A Tabaxi who hit his head and believes he's an elf. Just look at the pointy ears. He's genuinely breaking the campaign's world a bit because after meeting him, there are some NPCs who believe Fluffy Elves are a thing, including a very important army general who can tell when someone lies to her. The "I'm an elf" thing was my main gag at first, but then the character got really serious and is actually one of the most reliable party members. I don't think I'm ready for the mental breakdown he'll get once he's forced to confront the fact he might not be an elf though. You know, I could get behind some kind of weird lore where Tabaxi are like just fuzzy elves. Like, I know it's not technically that, but anything's possible. I mean, look at the Elder Scrolls stuff. Orcs are elves, dwarves are elves, everything's an elf. Back in 2nd edition, gnomes could not be rangers. I had a gnome that had always wanted to be a ranger, but couldn't. He was a fighter who pretended to be a ranger and was very bad at it. Constantly getting lost in the wilderness, unable to follow trails, couldn't handle wild animals at all. But occasionally, he guessed something right, and that kept him going. Yeah, 2nd edition had some weird restrictions, like your stats had to be certain minimums to allow you to play a class, and certain races couldn't do a class, and some people could multi-class into certain things, but not others, and it was kind of confusing. Serious is relative, but I wrote an entire adventure about milking an owlbear. You know, I've run a lot of adventures in my day, and I think I am proud to say that I've never had a party milk an owlbear. I created a joke character. He was a goblin that lived in a trash can. The street might have been Sesame Street. Oscar the Grouch, like many joke characters, evolved far beyond what he started as. Campaign ended with him being a level 16 thief, level 4 wizard. Why dual class instead of arcane trickster? For the ability to choose different spells. He ended up a crime boss of a vast mafia empire. I think canonically that's what happened to the Sesame Street Oscar the Grouch too. At least it is in my head. Like, my dad owns a dealership. The daughter of an archfey who was banished from the Feywilds for not doing her duties, was aloof and spoiled, didn't understand anything about the mortal realm, and caused nothing but problems. Was support only, never did any type of damage, and didn't want to take accountability for any of her actions. A Fey Warlock, high charisma shenanigans with stuff like plant growth and CC spells for combat. Jump 2, the party must go into the Feywild for a quest to save a kingdom's queen, who is the mother of another adventurer. 6-year time skip, because time works different in the Feywild. Since my character was banished and unable to enter the Feywild, she got a mean glow up. During the time the queen was kidnapped, she, along with the other council members, thought it best to avoid panic and utilized her magic to take the place of the queen and take over the everyday functions of ruling the nation. So basically, you just replace the queen with this Fey trickster kind of character while the Fey trickster's party went out to try to save the queen. I like it. This included learning all about the diplomacy of the mortal plane, the function of the kingdom in the grand ecosystem, as well as the dangers of alliances and enemies with rivaling kingdoms. While away, a necromancer toppled another kingdom, and in her grown-up efforts, acting as queen, she established an alliance of nations to unify their troops and try to support the toppled nation and dismantle the necromancer. When the party returned, she had aged 6 years, she was a satyr, and matured significantly and had even found a new patron, because her dad was a deadbeat anyway. While they had been rescuing the queen, she'd organized a method to contain the necromancer to that single kingdom, as well as establish trade routes and peace treaties with all neighboring nations in an effort to solidify their power against the necromancer. And, of course, train enough troops so that whenever her party did decide to return, they would have an army with which to stand against this necromancer and his undead horde. Which they did. She delivered the final blow, critting with Eldritch Smite and delivering over 100 damage to the necromancer. That was her one and only time attempting to do actual damage that the party saw. She did train a lot in the 6-year time skip. Crazy good arc. That is a crazy good arc. I would read an entire fantasy book series about something like that, where like the first book starts with the queen getting kidnapped to this Fey realm, and then like maybe her highest ranked servant or something is in the room, and she happens to be able to change her appearance, and they put her in the position, and there's this whole maturing and changing of power and all that. Like I would read the shit out of that. Bloodline of Zariel Tiefling, that's a fiend warlock. Dude was basically Zariel's biggest fanboy. Dude always had a story about this one time Zariel. Was a lot of fun. Couldn't be resurrected though, since he sold his soul to Zariel to get his warlock powers. Honestly, resurrection's kind of a buzzkill anyway. Where's the fun if you don't risk permanently losing something you sunk a ton of your time into, huh? This is much less silly, but still super funny. By far my absolute favorite D&D characters were the ones where me and my friends said, what if their reason for being at this place at this time was they had a one-night stand last night and intended to never see each other again, except they had both already agreed to join the same adventuring party that planned to leave that next morning. Oh my god, I love it. Super mega closeted and homophobic ex-soldier and super flamboyantly queer everything addict bitchy cleric of Dionysus. Oh, I gotta stop here. Amazing character descriptions. The first trying to pretend he has never met the other before and is definitely very much not head over heels in love despite the other not caring much at all. It took them 3 to 4 years canon time to finally start dating, even though they continued hooking up for almost the whole period with just a few breaks. See, this one, the last one, like a couple ones ago I said could be like a good book series, this just sounds like a Netflix show. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it would be an interesting watch. Now me, personally, my favorite silly turned serious character I've run has got to be Glornog the Barbarian. I've already talked about him a little bit on this channel, but to summarize, he's a barbarian with amnesia who is convinced that he's the best thief around. He's the kind of guy that'll try to pick a lock, fail once, and then decide to break the door down instead and intimidate everyone inside into keeping their mouths shut. Started out silly, but as time went on, Glornog actually ended up joining a thieves guild and becoming one of their best thieves. He even ended up stealing the deed to an inn on accident. And by on accident, I mean he accidentally broke the innkeeper's neck, and the only reason the party could come up with when the guards asked why the innkeeper disappeared out of nowhere was that he just got tired of running the inn and he sold it to us. But with that, we're gonna wrap up today's video. Thanks for stopping by the Twisted Pint Tavern, and I hope you enjoyed the stories. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what your favorite silly turned serious character that you've run is. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh, and sorry I've been missing from the tavern for a while. My party had a new player join us, and that's been quite time-consuming. He's doing great so far, definitely has a good charisma stat, but since he's only a couple weeks old, he's really not doing much for us in combat. Plus, he refuses to take watch at night. Instead, we have to stay up and keep an eye on him. It's ridiculous. Kids, am I right?